Kungba in Ondo State, Nigeria, to visit her boyfriend, 27-year-old Seidu Adeyemi, who lived in Akure, the capital city of Ondo State. Khadijat never told anybody that she was visiting Adeyemi. She never informed her friends, nor did she tell her parents, who also lived in the same Akure she was visiting. This unusual lack of communication would later raise suspicions that Khadijat was either hypnotized by Adeyemi or some kind of juju was used on her to make her keep the journey a secret. When Khadijat arrived in Akure that Thursday, Adeyemi took her to a restaurant where they had dinner. After dinner, she was taken to a bar where they had a couple of drinks before finally retiring to Adeyemi's house. During this period, Khadijat may have thought she was spending some quality time with her lover, not knowing that the only thing probably going through Adeyemi's mind the entire time was how he would summon the courage to carry out his plans, after which he would have to endure the guilt for 7 days before becoming stinkingly rich. The house where Adeyemi took Khadijat belonged to his father. The residence had a main building which served as the family house, while they also had a boys' quarter consisting of 6 rooms, some of which were rented by tenants. Adeyemi had moved out of the main family house to occupy the last room in the boys' quarters. His father, Mr. Seidu Siyanbola, who worked as a bricklayer in the state, was fully aware of his relationship with Khadijat. He had also wanted her to become his son's wife, an intention he still innocently made known to Khadijat's father on the day she was declared missing. Mr. Seidu was aware that Khadijat had visited his son that Thursday. However, what he had no idea about was the horrible plan his son had put in place for her. Adeyemi had also designed a situation to make it look like Khadijat had gone back to school the next day, which was Friday. On that Friday, Khadijat's father, Alhaji Lasisi Oluboyo, who was a one-time deputy governor of Ondo State, sent money to his daughter for feeding. However, after doing this, something unusual happened. Normally, whenever Mr. Lasisi sends money to his daughter, she would call to thank him immediately after she got the credit alert. Surprisingly, Khadijat never called his father to confirm that she had received the money. This made Mr. Lasisi to inform his wife about the strange behavior. The mother started calling her, but all her phones were switched off. Khadijat had 2 mobile phones and 4 SIM cards. One of her mobile phones was dual SIM, while the other was single SIM. She often carried the extra SIM card in her bag in case she needed to swap it with another one. The parents couldn't reach or hear from Khadijat throughout the weekend, but on Monday, luck shone on them, and Khadijat's phone finally rang for the very first time. After the phone rang, someone picked the call, but never said a word. The parents could hear sounds in the background, but Khadijat never said anything to them during the course of the call. After this brief encounter, Khadijat's phone went off again, only for the parents to receive a text message from her saying that the mouthpiece of her phone was bad and that she would insert the SIM in another phone. The parents may have heaved a huge sigh of relief after receiving the text from their daughter, not knowing that the text message was just a decoy to enable some evil people to buy enough time to cover their tracks. The parents waited anxiously for Khadijat to swap her SIM card and then called them, but sadly, the call never happened. That same Monday, Khadijat's friend called the parents to inform them that she had been calling Khadijat's numbers, but none of them were going through. According to her, the 2 of them finished lectures on Thursday, after which they took the same bike to their houses. They didn't have any lectures on Friday, so none of them went to school that day. However, when she got to the lecture hall on Monday and couldn't find Khadijat, she began calling her numbers. The friend had also received a text message from Khadijat telling her that she was on her way back to school. This was how the parents got to know that their daughter had visited Akure without informing or even dropping by to see them. At this point, the parents had considered Khadijat missing. They reached out to the police, who began tracking her phones. After her 2 phones were tracked, it showed that Khadijat was indeed in Akure. However, the location of the 2 phones indicated that she was on her way back to school. Shortly after this, the parents received another text message from Khadijat saying that she had been kidnapped and that they should wait for a negotiation team. It was at this point the parents realized that the location of Khadijat's phones were perfectly planned to make it look like she was heading back to school, thereby giving the perpetrators enough time to cover their tracks. When word spread that Khadijat was missing, Adeyemi's father learned about it and then called Mr. Lasisi to inform him that his daughter had visited his son on Thursday but left on Friday morning. Mr. Seidu also disclosed to him that Khadijat used to visit his son in the past but suddenly stopped coming. He innocently added that Khadijat was the type of girl he wanted his son to marry. That was when Mr. Lasisi caught him to remind him that they were not talking about marriage, but rather the fact that his daughter was missing and they were actively looking for her. It was also said that Mr. Seidu later called to pray with them for the safe return of their daughter. Adeyemi was also contacted by Mr. Lasisi, but he also gave the same response he sold to his own father. He maintained that Khadijat visited him on Thursday but left on Friday morning. About 6 days after Khadijat had gone missing, something very mysterious happened. Adeyemi's younger brother, identified simply as Mutiu, had a strange dream. In the dream, he saw himself being haunted by the ghost of Khadijat. After waking up from the dream, he went to Adeyemi's room in the boys' quarters, where he caught him red-handed, trying to exhume Khadijat's remains from the spot where he had placed his mattress. Adeyemi confessed to his brother that Khadijat had passed away and was buried in his room. He then pleaded with Mutiu to help him bring a sack so that he could pack the remains and dispose of them. Unfortunately for him, Mutiu had no intentions of becoming his partner in crime. The younger brother ran to his father, who was worshipping in the mosque at the time, to reveal the horrific discovery to him. The father then left the mosque to go and see things for himself. When he got there, Adeyemi confessed to him and also alleged that he was threatened not to reveal the crime to anybody, or else his entire family would be murdered. Regardless, the father left the house and then headed straight to the police station where he reported his son. The police took Mr. Seidu into custody and then drove to his house where they caught Adeyemi, packing the remains into a sack for disposal. Adeyemi was immediately arrested and taken into custody, while Khadijat's remains were recovered for post-mortem examination. After the arrest was made, Adeyemi's mother, who used to sell yam in the area, was said to have run away from the house over fear of getting arrested. All the tenants in the compound also went into hiding, including some of the landlords in the area. Khadijat Oluboyo was a final year student at Adekunle Ajasin University in Ondo State. As the daughter of a former deputy governor of the state, her sudden disappearance and tragic death quickly became a case of national attention, sparking widespread outrage and intense scrutiny. Adeyemi Seidu was a graduate of the Federal University of Technology, Akure. He had just completed his National Youth Service before aiming to become an extremely rich man without a job. Khadijat met Adeyemi in 2010 while she was still at the College of Education in Ondo State. The two dated for 4 years before they eventually broke up in 2015, only to reconcile some years later. At the police station, Adeyemi denied any involvement in his girlfriend's death. He claimed he had no reason to take her life since he was hoping to use her father's connections to secure a job after his youth service. Adeyemi said Khadijat came to her house that Thursday because of a final year project which he was helping her with. According to him, they had finished writing chapter 1 of the project and her supervisor had already approved it. He went on to say that she visited him for the final correction so that she could move to chapter 2. Adeyemi explained further that Khadijat later traveled to Lagos on Friday to buy some wristwatches, but that she had forgotten to drop her project work with him. He claimed Khadijat later snapped and sent the hard copies of her project to him on WhatsApp the next day. Adeyemi said he thought Khadijat was already in school on Monday after he received a text message from her asking him to send a sum of 2,000 naira to her, to which he could only send 1,000 naira. Adeyemi claimed he was very surprised when he got a knock on the door later in the day, only for Khadijat to open the door and enter. He said Khadijat later informed him that she wanted to receive some visitors at his house. A few minutes later, she arrived with 2 young men. He stated that he was not surprised as this was not the first time she had brought people to his house. According to him, after exchanging greetings with the visitors, he left them alone in the room. However, about 30 minutes later, one of the young men called him back inside. When he entered, he saw that the boy was holding a firearm while the other was taking advantage of Khadijat. Adeyemi alleged that he heard Khadijat pleading, saying she will not tell anybody. However, one of the men strangled her, while the other threatened to kill him if he made any noise. He further stated that the two men forced him to retrieve a digger, which they used to dig a hole inside his room to bury Khadijat's corpse. When asked why he never reported the incident to the police, Adeyemi claimed he was afraid that no one would believe his side of the story. He also claimed not to know the two men by name, even though they had visited him 3 times before. The police never believed his cock and bull story, so they conducted further investigation to reveal the actual truth. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that Adeyemi had joined Yahoo Yahoo, a term commonly used to describe internet fraudsters in Nigeria. He had been making efforts to defraud people for months, but after numerous failed attempts, he became frustrated and then decided to ask a friend for help. The friend introduced him to what they called the Yahoo Plus Club, a version of Yahoo Yahoo that required ritualistic sacrifices. Inside the club, Adeyemi was introduced to a native doctor in the same Ondo state, who then told him that for him to become rich, he had to use someone very close to him for money rituals. The native doctor requested that he should bring the hair on both the head and private part of the victim. It was also believed that the two men who visited Adeyemi that day were the native doctor and the friend who introduced him to the Yahoo Plus Club. However, Adeyemi continued to deny being the one who took Khadijat's life. He maintained that the two boys ended her life and then forced him to dig a grave within his room to bury the corpse. Adeyemi admitted that he had turned on his musical system to suppress the sound of the digging. He also stated that the reason his neighbors were not aware of the act was because they were busy watching a World Cup game. After burying his girlfriend, Adeyemi placed his mattress over the shallow grave and slept on top of it for a total of 5 days. During that period, he would spray insecticide and perfume in his room to cover the stench coming from the decomposing remains. He was originally instructed by the native doctor to sleep on top of it for 7 days. However, after the smell became too unbearable, he decided to exhume and dispose of the remains. Adeyemi was arraigned in court shortly after. Then in March 2019, he was sentenced to death by hanging after it was proven through autopsy results that Khadija didn't die a natural death. Mr. Saidu was long released from police custody after Khadija's father exonerated him, since he was the one who reported his son to the police. No other suspects were arrested in connection to Khadija's death to date. May her soul continue to rest in peace. Share your thoughts on this case in the comments below, and don't forget